Welcome to the studio, Vin Jelly here. I'm going to be doing a painting inspired by Gongbi paintings, and here are some great examples of the genre. And it really is described as having careful realist technique with meticulous brush marks. The drawing's immaculate, the brushwork's immaculate, and I'm not saying mine will be anything as accomplished as those examples that I show, which were masterpieces of Chinese painting. I'm merely going to do something inspired by those pieces because I think they're beautiful, and they've given me some ideas that I want to play with watercolour. So whereas Gongbi can sometimes be painted on very fine papers or silks, I believe, if I've understood correctly, I'm going to be working on watercolour paper, stretched, and I start by drawing it out fairly carefully and then working over with some washes, adding salt for texture, allowing paint to run into other paint before it dries to get soft wetting wet techniques, keeping the palette fairly cool. And then here I'm working with a rotring pen actually, and I believe that the Chinese use brushes to draw with, and will draw very carefully and very meticulously and beautifully the leaves and foliage and whatever else they need to. But I'm using a pen because it's quicker and because I'm more used to that kind of work. I'm not a big fan of pen and ink work, but in this case I thought I would try to emulate some of the look of the Gongbi works. So I'm building it up gradually. I'm keeping the flowers white for the moment, and just trying to get the subtleties of the foliage. In retrospect, I think I could have done more work to the foliage and drawn it out more carefully first, but I was trying to keep the flowers as the centre of focus and get the whole background more freely painted and more abstractly painted, so that the focal points are the flowers and the eye goes to those first, and then you can enjoy the subtle effects of watercolour in the background. So that was the aim. I'm not sure I completely pulled it off, but it was great fun having a go. So at the moment you can see me painting in the flowers, and I'm keeping warms and cools. These were white blooms, and I photographed them on a sunny day and drew them out fairly meticulously onto small pieces of paper, and then transferred them where I wanted them, and then adjusted the composition as I went. I've kept the palette fairly limited, and I'm keeping it to warms and cools, and some of the dark areas I've added little bits of warmth and little bits of cool to sort of vary them, and then I'll add some bluish foliage into the background as well to suggest recession and atmosphere, using some Caran d'Ache watercolour pencils as well, just to draw into the leaves a little bit, put some texture and highlights on. And as I go, I build up various areas, drop water on, drop salt on to keep the textures alive, keep things moving around, pull and push. One of the problems with a made-up composition like this is that you don't have one complete image to work from. You're working from several images, you've composed it, you've put it all together yourself, so there's an element of risk involved. So I'm treating this as a pure experiment to see what happens as I go, and as I develop it I can then decide what works and what doesn't, and if I pursue another composition or redo this composition, I'll have a better idea of how to resolve some of the problems that arose as I worked along with it. So here's the finished piece, and I've decided not to do any more to it. That's it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.